The Last Worker is a game where you are cast as an employee, as the last worker, in fact, in a massive Amazon-esque factory, and your job is to fulfill orders. You need to go and collect packages, deliver them to waiting customers, and all throughout there is a very sinister undertones. There something is not quite right in this factory. Alex and I have been playing this now. We are not finished the game, so this is not a full review of the completed thing. It's just our early impressions of the first 2 or 3 hours. Alex, would you say?
Yeah, yeah. Which I'm
Alex,
not actually sure how long it is, so it feels about half, but we'll see.
yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea either. It'd be interesting to see. I feel like there's quite a lot of story to be told still where I am though. So early impressions, Alex. What are your thoughts on it?
I was I was very mixed at the beginning. I feel like it started that it was the controls took a little bit getting used to. I think when you're initially getting in and you're getting seated, what is like your main contraption, your main vehicle for going round, it took a little bit of getting used to like how you were manoeuvring, how you were steering in terms of. I understand why it was like almost like a 45-degree turn for every like change of direction, but at the same time, I was always expecting it to be a little more smoother. And I think that took me off guard a little bit to begin with, but once I got used to that, I felt very much at home, like not at home with the controls. I don't think I've ever quite got at home with the controls yet, but the rest of the experience kind of took over. I think that initial opening sequence where you're going into the factory and experiencing it for the first time, and just you're almost like given free reign to just like destroy, like that whole feeling at the beginning of just going in, and we're probably spoiling this a little bit here, but I'm not giving too much of it because it's like it's the opening sequence. You're essentially tearing down this factory like with two as a giant robot essentially.
Yeah.
And that was such a nice way to kind of introduce yourself to the setting and give you that sense of destruction, as well as probably it almost kind of made you immediately understand the character's perspective.
Yeah, and the characters in it are probably one of the main highlights, I think, to start off with. So you're playing a guy called Kurt, and you see in the opening sequence that he has he's met his partner, met a lady in the factory. She's had a baby, and then which she managed to escape. I think so in the game, the story of the game is that you use lots of other employees that worked in this factory, and one by one they've all been picked off by the other machines and the robots. And you see this played out in a sort of cartoon sequence at the start of it, but also in that you see that he meets this woman and they have a baby together, but just as she's about to be snatched out of the machines, I think he distracts them and she manages to get away. So Kurt is still there in the factory on his own. He's played by Olafur Durry Olafsson, very, very well. He's got a very, very deep and sonorous voice that I just love listening to him. It's just very sad. You know, he's got the weight of many years of working in this factory, and you can tell it's taken a toll on him, and his voice does the characterization and the voice acting is brilliant.
Yeah. And that's brilliant for all the characters. I think the kind of key ones you meet earlier on between him and Skew, voiced by Jason Isaacs, is when you initially hear Skew for the first time, and it's just this like little angry Scouser. You're just
no, because he start off he's in the training mode, isn't he?
Mode,
just talks normally, and then he snaps out of it and he goes back to his usual self. It's fantastic. Yeah, again, very, very well acted, and there's an interplay in the game with the story-based sequences where you have the dialogue out and the story moves on, and you see the interaction with Josef Jungle, who runs the very Amazon-esque company Jungle. I mean, it's not very subtle. It's clearly meant to be Amazon. You even have kind of orders that need high priority orders that you say these need to be your prime priority. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. I see what you're doing here. But yeah, so all the characters, they play out in between what are shifts basically, and you start a shift, and the main gameplay of it is you are tasked with collecting a parcel off all this giant warehouse with all the parcels that are stacked on shelves, and you have to take your little flying delivery cart. What would you call it? The little
yeah, it's like a little cart, like a hover cart type thing.
Yeah, a little hover cart, and you can it just hovers. So you can go up and down in any direction. I changed it so it's just free movement and smooth turning because I couldn't be doing with the snap turning. But I suppose it's a comfort setting. But for me, no issue with that. So I've just changed it to the smooth controls. You have to grab the package and then get it as quickly as you can to the big sort of suction pipe that sends it off to the customer, and then as you're doing it, you have to check that the parcel hasn't been damaged in any way, or it's the right size, or hasn't been mislabeled, or it's not out of date. So there is you pick it up by firing this sort of gravity gun thing at it, and you can rotate the parcel around to make sure it's all okay. If it meets the criteria and it's not been mislabeled or damaged or anything, you throw it in the blue pipe. And if it has been, there is something wrong with it, you have to tag it and then send it to a red pipe. And then once you do each one, you get given another order and you have to go off and fulfill that. And there's about 7 or 8 in each shift that you do, and each shift only lasts, I don't know, 5 minutes, I would say. So it's very quick shifts. You fulfill the orders, and that's ultimately, I suppose, the gameplay in the game. And in between shifts, then that's when the story plays out. So I think some people could play it and think, oh, God, this actual fulfilling of parcels, it sounds boring, or it is boring, or it's monotonous. And I guess it strikes me when we spoke to Jorg and he was explaining about how he's really wants to make games. So sorry, Jorg Tittel, the writer and director for this game, this is very much his game, and he explained to us that he wants to make people feel and think with things and use VR as a way to tell stories. And when you're up against it and you're trying to fulfill these orders, and especially when some of them are time pressured and it's monotonous, and it made me reflect on the fact that this is what actually many thousands of people, this is their job, and this is what it's like, and this is it in real life. When you hear the stories of people that work from Amazon and the pressure that they're under to fulfill orders in time, and the sort of lengths they had to go to and without taking breaks and things, it's supposed to make you feel like that, and it makes you reflect on the fact that this isn't fiction. This is a real company that is out there doing this to its employees, and this is obviously doing it in a very silly and slightly futuristic manner, but it's not, it's not unrealistic.
Yeah, and I think it does that in such a good way, in terms of it makes you feel at one with Kurt, and I think it's some of the nice little touches. So obviously, again, when we spoke to Jorg, talk about having that full body experience and not just having hands, to have that, to kind of feel at one with the character. And I think the other thing that I really felt was really effective was the rear view mirror. Mm-hmm. So there was almost at points in the story where you were turning around and you could see yourself as Kurt, so you were seeing like the reflection in this mirror as Kurt, to make that little bit, add that slightly more immersive.
And you can see how tired he is. He's got his bags under his eyes and his big beard. And he's got a picture of him and his girlfriend, his wife, partner. And you can see him looking young and fresh-faced. And then you can just see the toll that working in this company has had on him. And in between the shifts, or at the end of the shift, you go back to his home, essentially, which is just part of the waste area of the factory. I mean, what would you call that area where all the kind of rubbish gets dumped?
It's like the furnace, almost, isn't it? Yeah, it's like a furnace where all the bad toys go to die type thing. Because I don't know if you noticed, there was like, well, I'm assuming what this is, but there's at one point it looked like there was a Sonic burning in the. There's a Sonic burning in the furnace, and that's certainly what I thought it was. It looked like a little blue hedgehog. So I thought that was quite nice. It does strike
me as something that Jorg would do, knowing his love for Sega. But yeah, so the area, and because it's just burning up all the plastic toys and things, the area is contaminated. He has a gas mask down there where he needs one, and he's got a walking stick to move. So it kind of doesn't tell you this, but just the environmental storytelling, and you pick up the fact to move around the area when you're in your parts, you have to kind of pick up the walking stick and move it, and that kind of engages his walking and moves him to the other part. And his food's all mouldy, and the air, he can't breathe it properly, and his sofa is just all falling to pieces and stuff. And it really does a good job of just showing you how tired and sick and worn down working here has made him.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, in a way, in a strange way, of WALL-E, which is kind of one of the finest films ever made. In that film, the corporation there is By and Large, which again is obviously doing a very similar thing of just criticising this mega corporations just trying to flog us stuff and make us ill. But in that, all the humans were there, they all go around on their little hover chairs all the time, and they're all just getting very fat and ill and overweight and stuff, and they're learning how to do things, and they're essentially being killed by the convenience that the robots are offering them. And there's a similar sort of story here about how everything's just been kind of automated, and it's slowly just draining their life away. It's just very bleak and depressing.
But I think at the same time you also got that sense of incredibly high odds, and like it's parts of the game where you get the totally egotistical Yungo like pitting the last worker against the bots it's almost like your job's constantly on the line, and he'll test you to try and like get you out, and it'll be basically you're up against it the whole time, and he's battling constantly to like be the last worker and to stay there and to keep his job. And it's almost like that kind of, it says a lot about Kurt that he has that determination to do it, whereas you just feel like in the state that he's in, the conditions he's in, like why hasn't he given up? Like it just
but I suppose that's telling you that the world outside the factory is
not in a bit
even worse if that's worth keeping the job. And again though, that is very much the reality for people working in the gig economy, 0-hour contracts that just have to take whatever shifts they're given, and they're constantly being pitted against other people to see if someone could do their job better than them, and if so they'll lose out to that person. And it is a very effective critique, I think, of where we are with the economy and sort of capitalism right now, and how technology and apps are just making life really, really shit for people, frankly. So if that is what the game is setting out to do, which clearly it is, I think it's very effective and it succeeds very well in that. You mentioned before the controls, and I agree that they are quite more fiddly than they need to be. There's a bit where I think you have to try and grab a sort of drone team that's trying to attack you and then ping it away, and that took me far too many goes to get the hang of what it is that it's trying to get me to do. So I don't know if they'll patch it or if they can make some things better. It's fiddly as well, like trying to you get your gravity gun thing, and then you have to attach a different thing onto the end of it if you want to then tag parcels, and it's just all a bit kind of fiddlier to pick things up than it needs to be. And I don't know, they could simplify the controls a bit more, but that would be my main critique of the game if I had one.
Yeah, and I suppose the game is also available on other consoles. It's not a VR only game, so I'd be quite interested to see how that looks and feels in terms of another a non-VR experience and how the controls compare there, because I suppose they are the specific VR controls, and whether that works a little bit better in a flat screen, but I'm not sure. But as I say, it is a little bit fiddly, but it's not, you get used to it and it's fine. And I think I wouldn't let that put you off, because I think there's so much there to enjoy. On top of that, it's like, although we've made this sound like quite a bleak experience, I think when you appreciate the writing, the comedy and the writing, you get there's plenty of moments where you will just laugh, like
absolutely, yeah.
Even like to the point where you're like delivering those parcels, you get a bit of like relief when you've delivered the parcel, because it gives you a little hologram of what was in the parcel, when usually that's almost taking the piss out of the whole system and what people are getting delivered and what people are bothered about ordering, and there's just so much humour in it.
Kurt always has like a little one-liner, doesn't he, or whatever it is, because he sees what the parcel was as well, and he's like, "Who buys this shit? What is it? Like, why are you buying?" So that's a really good part of it, and obviously the interplay with Jason Isaacs as Q, the robot, steals every scene that he appears in. It is fantastic, so that's very funny, and just it's a very comic satire as to what it's trying to do, and I did like the core gameplay mechanic. I think my first shift I was just getting a hang of it. I didn't do very well, but I didn't fail it. But then after that, it is I'm finding it very satisfying, just trying to get the absolute top rank and see how fast I can get it. It's almost like Crazy Taxi, where you have to zip around this factory as quickly as you can, grabbing things, dropping them off. And I've got developing the knack to think, right, rather than waiting until I get to the place I'm going and then getting my gun out and then picking it up, I'm thinking, right, I can be driving along with one hand and then I'm picking it up as I'm going to sort of just get the knack of firing. Yeah, literally like a drive-by, and see how can I do it without even stopping. And then whilst it's telling you if you've succeeded or not, I can be on to the way to the next one. I'm trying to sort of guess, do I turn left or do I turn right? And you think, I've got 50-50 chance, I'll go for it. Oh no! So it's that kind of competitiveness, and I wonder you can do the times for it. So I wonder if they'll patch in the sort of speedrun mode or some try and competitive mode to it, because that would be quite fun.
That would be fun, because you do get the option at the end of each of the shifts. You can redo the shift if you want to. Like if you're not happy with the score that you've got, you can go and do it again, or it gives you an option just to continue the story, which I've been doing because I've been really bad at identifying the parcels that have been. I almost forget that. So basically you need to assess the parcels based on whether it's the right size, and the size is based on whether it takes up like a quarter or half of the whole of the the vehicle, there's an area of the hovercraft thing that you put the parcel on, so it basically tells you the scale of the parcel by a sticker on it. It also then tells you what the weight is by a sticker on it, and there's a little scale on the left hand side telling you what the right weight is, and then you need to assess whether there's any damage or evidence of damage on the parcel, and I'm really bad at that bit. I just kind of grab it and deliver it and hope for the best. I don't like to recycle anything, and I think that's kind of the point.
But some of the shifts, I don't know what's going on in this factory, because some of the shifts, I think nearly everything had to be recycled that I did. I don't know if that's a random. Maybe if it's random or if it's fixed. I don't know. It'd be interesting to replay it and see. But that's what I mean. The first shift, it took me a while to get my head around. And then, to be fair, the game probably could have done a better job as to giving you a first shift that was just okay, you don't worry here, this is just very much a training shift that you can't fail at, and to help me understand a bit more what the different criteria that I'm supposed to be looking for, because I think there is a kind of training mode, but that was more, I was getting my head around the controls and the setting and everything, so I think I needed my hand holding a little bit longer, but after a couple of shifts I'd fully got it, and I have got it now, and I've got it down, so I'm very much enjoying that. But this, the bit in between, there is other stuff that goes on between the missions as well, where it's not just story where you are passive and not doing anything. There was the bit I played was a section almost kind of like Metal Gear, where you're sneaking through the factory at night after hours, where all the robots will basically kill you on sight. They've been programmed to kill on sight, so you're trying to sneak past them all as they're going through their routines, and it's very much that Metal Gear style, sneaking through and trying to find your way around and plot a way around so that people can't see you. Also, the robots can't see you. So that it does mix it up as well, and there are different takes on different types of the gameplay as well. So yeah, I'm very much enjoying it so far.
Me too. It's a game I've looked forward to for a long time, and it's not disappointing me. I think where I expected this game to excel was with the voice acting and with the writing, and where this game excels is with the voice acting and with the writing. There's a hell of a lot there in terms of that narrative and that story. And as they don't although the controls feel a little bit fiddly at first, give it a little while and they feel second nature, although it's maybe just a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. You'll be totally fine, but it's worth it for everything else that it then gives you.
And I would say as well, I suppose with a game like this, an experience like this, the story is key. So how well it nails that landing is going to be crucial, I think, to the overall the effectiveness of the game itself. So I guess we can't say to that yet. We can't speak to that. The only thing I can say to people is just check out, keep listening to the full Cross Button VR podcast, and in future episodes we'll obviously revisit it and let everyone know our thoughts on it, having completed it, and we can revisit and give some more final conclusions on it.